So I'm in half price books. I'm browsing through the aisles, and then shockingly, I find a book, a fantasy book authored by C.S. Lewis, the author of the Chronicles of Narnia, or more famously, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I take my phone, I look up this fantasy book, and I discover that it's a fantasy series. At that moment, I was like, let's go. So today, I'll be talking about Out of the Silent Planet. It's a sci-fi fantasy Christian book authored by C.S. Lewis. I listened to it on Hoopla and I read it on Kindle via Libby, so all from my library. And I'm just going to describe what this book is about very quickly because I was very excited about it. So, Heart of the Silent Planet is book one in the Space Trilogy, a classic science fiction trilogy. And in this book, Dr. Ransom, a Cambridge academic, is abducted and taken on a spaceship to the red planet of Malacandra, which he knows as Mars. I'm not sure if that's a spoiler or not because it's in the synopsis. His captors are plotting to plunder the planet's treasures, and they plan to offer ransom as a sacrifice to the creatures who live on that planet. Ransom discovers while on the red planet that he is from the silent planet, also known as Earth, and there is a tragic story that has been told of Earth that is now known throughout the universe, but is unknown to Earth because Earth is the silent planet. All right, so that was the quick synopsis of this book. What did I like about this book? When it came to like crafting, like, difficulties and problems for our main character, the ones Ransom particularly encountered is that he is drawn into this interplanetary situation he knows nothing about. So, Ransom, if you didn't realize it, Dr. Ransom is the main character of this book. He was kidnapped by a professor and a businessman, one of whom is schooled with, and then he's taken to the red planet of Malacandra. The name ransom already made me start thinking of like allegories and symbolisms, and how ransom might be like some form of sacrificial lamb or recompense in this story. Like before I even knew he was kidnapped, I was like, your name is Ransom. This is given what's it called? Pilgrim's Progress. This is already giving Pilgrim's Progress. So Ransom arrives on this new planet to meet so many strange beings and is able to escape from his captors, the two men, the businessman and the professor. And after this, we are taken on a journey of his exploration of this new planet with beautiful but sometimes too descriptive language. And this story definitely kept me guessing in the initial part of the story. I think like the first fifth of the book, or maybe the first fourth of the book, kept me guessing. Reading this book, I didn't read the synopsis, so I didn't know what I was getting into. I just knew that it was sci-fi, but I didn't know what silent planets were coming out of. I didn't know anything about the story, so a lot of it was a pleasant surprise for me. I can't say it would be the same for somebody who already read the synopsis and knew a bit about the book before getting into the book, but for me it was. And so after arriving on this new planet, there is very little to guess as it was mostly exploration of the new fauna and flora. It was exploration of the fauna, flora, as well as the inhabitants of that planet. For a book like this, because I know it's Christian fantasy, as I'm reading it, I'm trying to like tie it to Christian themes, like how does this tie in with biblical themes? But then I even struggled to do that. But I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of my understanding of this spiritual journey that Ransom went on. His journey through Malacandra, honestly, is a bit akin to a spiritual one. Malacandra is said to be a world, beings living in harmony and under divine guidance. And their specific spiritual guide or divine guide is called their Oyarsa. Different planets have different Oyarsas. And this book explores how all of humanity has a bent of sinful nature due to the failure of the Oyarsa of Earth, who we know as the bent one in this book. And so because of the Oyarsa of Earth has failed to properly show human beings their place in the universe and the need for their obedience to the old one, which is kind of like the head of Oyarsas, humanity has become bent. So the old one is the one who rules the entire universe. This book also like explores themes of colonization and ideas that supports how only the fittest and the strongest should survive and how bent these ideas are. The main themes in this book, I'm going to say, are like majorly religious ones. There was a lot of religious discussion that loosely resembles the basics of the Christian faith, but I think Lewis tried to not say this is the Christian faith, or at least he tried to like separate it in some form, which makes some people kind of like not like this book. I read a review on Goodreads. Someone was like, Lewis's idea of the Christian God is either a lion or a space god, and I'm just like, I have no comments. understatement. So the ruler of Malakandra, like I mentioned earlier, is this angel-like figure called Oyarsa, and this Oyarsa serves more powerful figures who are rough analogs of Christian God the Father and Jesus the Son, God the Son. There is some rough description of the biblical account of the fall of Earth into sin by connecting it to a story in which, like, Earth had its own Oyarsa. So Lewis tries to bring in the description of the biblical account of the fall of man into the story by telling a story about how once had its own Oyarsa who fought against the higher gods and then plunged the humans of earth into conflict and pain. And this kind of parallels the story of the devil's fall, Satan's fall from heaven, and as well the temptation of Adam and Eve. And these allusions to the Christian faith, as I mentioned earlier, Lewis keeps very surface level, vague, which is part of why I struggle to tie it to the Christian faith, really, because I was like, what message are we trying to connect here? Are we just trying to tell the story of a people whose belief system closely ties with that of Christians, or is this something that Christians can actually get value out of? Is this fiction for Christians, or is it fiction for people Lewis is hoping to like show the goodness of Christianity? That was a question I had. Through this book, Ransom finds out that when he follows the orders of Oyarsa, he is able to avoid experiencing pain, like unnecessary pain, and also even like avoid inflicting unnecessary pain on others. And this kind of like parallels how, as Christians, we are taught to like follow the will of God for our lives. We are taught to look for the will of God. Like as Christians, we're taught to look for the will of God for our lives and follow that, because that will make life worth living and even better for us. So, what did I dislike about this book? I'm just going to say I did not enjoy reading this book. This book puts me single-handedly into a reading slump. I started listening to it on a drive. It was supposed to be a 4 hour drive. So I was supposed to be able to finish this book in that 4 hour drive. I had to stop listening to the book like 1 hour in, maybe even like 30 minutes in, because I found out that it was making me fall asleep. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'm just tired and I shouldn't be listening to a book that will make me fall asleep. But the thing is, I've listened to books on long drives like that. Like that same drive, I listened to another book and I almost finished it on that drive. So it's not a thing of like, oh, drives and me are incompatible. Listening to books while on drives is something that doesn't work for me. It works well for me, but this book just was making me feel very drowsy. And so I struggled to finish this book for 20 days. The day I finally finished it, I was like on the last 30 pages and I fell asleep after reading 5 pages. I fell asleep. Like, I fall asleep while reading books, but that happens when it's late at night. It's like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. I need to be asleep already. But this was like in the middle of the day. I was reading this book in the middle of the day and I fell asleep after reading like 5 pages. I don't need to say more than that. That's my true testimony. I don't need to say more than that. You can already figure out what you need to figure out about the book. If I wanted to say, like, there was a thing that made me struggle with this book mostly, was that I found it difficult to care about Ransom. We were introduced to Ransom at the earlier start of the book, and then for the rest of the book, there's kind of like very minimal dialogue, and there's a lot of like a lot of expository and descriptive language that is used to like describe Malakandra. So it's kind of like we're discovering Malakandra, but we are not discovering Malakandra. I feel like we discover Malakandra, but we don't discover Ransom as he discovers Malakandra, if that makes any sense at all. So there's very minimal dialogue in this book. The book was 185 pages long and it took me 20 days to finish it. I finished 500-page books in one day. So 185 pages long. I expected, like, after that drive, I was like, okay, even if I can't read this or listen to this on my drive, I'm sure I'm going to finish it. Tomorrow came, I read like 5 pages. I was like, oh my gosh, this is torture. This is torture. Somebody hates me right now. This book's exposition is very descriptive words in the native language of Malakandra, and that made it even much more difficult to follow, because every single time, it's kind of like on each page, you see different languages. It's talking about Oyarsa. Oyarsa is fine. Malakandra is fine. But then it's using the words for the highs, the lows, the mountains, the rivers, the different beings, because there are like I think three. There are three distinct beings on this planet. So it's using all the names for them. Pifiotrigi was one of them, and then each of them also have like distinct names, and it's like their names are not like names that are typical, they are names that are atypical, because of course Malakandra has a different language, but it's difficult to follow a book of 185 pages when you're bombarding me with all these new words. I just feel like there's a better way to do it. There's a different way and better way to go about introducing a new language as well as characters and things in that new language. So yeah, I did not enjoy reading this book. And then this is a trilogy, as I mentioned earlier. The second book I think has like 300 and something pages, and then the third book has like 500 and something pages. So I'm just going to disclaimer, I don't think the chances of me reading book two and book three are very unlikely, like highly unlikely. I would never say never, but the chances of me reading the second and third book in this series are highly unlikely. So, while preparing this book review, I discovered that Out of the Silent Planets falls under a genre of literature that is called travelogues. And after reading this, I don't think I like them so much. But I think before I write off travelogues entirely, I'm going to pick up one more travelogue to see how it goes. But one thing I know for sure is that travelogues that are written in the style of Out of the Silent Planet do not work for me at all. So, because of all these issues I've mentioned, I don't think I can truthfully recommend this book, and I think I'm going to have to give it like 2 stars. I won't give it 1 star because I think it did something. It wasn't like a terrible book, but it's also not like an average book. Like I struggled to finish reading it. Like at some point, it was like I'm not going to finish reading this book, so it was a real struggle for me. Uh, that's where we're at, and with that, I would say thank you for staying till the end of this book review. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified when I post new videos. If you've read Out of the Silent Planet before and you loved it, please tell me why you love it. No hate. I always love seeing other people's perspectives. I went to Goodreads and I saw 5-star reviews and I was reading through why people enjoyed reading the book, and I was like, I get it. So if you enjoyed reading Out of the Silent Planet, if you've read this book before and you enjoyed it, please tell me why. If you didn't enjoy it, also tell me why in the comment section below. I would love to hear from all perspectives of those who have read this book. And if you think you'll be picking up this book despite my book review, also tell me why in the comment section. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.